But as to like the dearth of African American players in baseball, and as we said, the major league opening night or opening day, only 6% of the players in the major leagues were African American. With the high point, it was never close to like baseball or basketball and football. The high point was 18.7% in 1981. That was the highest percentage of African Americans in baseball. And I remember, Ephraim, once I was speaking with my uncle about blacks, this topic, not why aren't they playing? This was probably close to 10 years ago. I said, blacks aren't playing baseball anymore. Or why aren't they? He said they are. He said they just blacks from the Caribbean. And that's true. You know what I mean? I mean, you do act. There's a lot of color in the league. A lot of brown and black color. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so a lot of those guys, back in the day, even Roberto Guerrero, a Dave Concepcion, Tony Perez, guys that were, Hispanic, but were, have African blood in them, obviously. And so I think some of the reasons I'm going to run down a few of the reasons that I think there are. You gave some plenty as to just the lack of interest or even African-American kids just growing out of baseball and playing other sports. But I'm going to run down a few things. One, I do think the expenses of baseball, and you even talked about how expensive bats are, gloves, and things like that. But also, as you get into high school, these high school kids, and you probably know this, on the weekends, they're going to these so-called showcases.
Right. Where
college coaches are at the showcases to see what these, recruit these players. And those showcases are like $500 a weekend or $1,000 a weekend, if not more. We heard the one caller say he had friends spending $4,000 to $7,000 a summer on their kids playing baseball. So I think that is a part of it. And it's unfortunate when a sport prices other people out. And I think that is a part of what's happening. I also think that more and more kids today are specializing, obviously, in sports. So, this Ephraim, I mean, if I were growing up today, I'm not sure I'd play baseball. I might try to play football and basketball, which as I got older became my favorite sports, more year round. If you want to play at the ultra high level, unless you're just a LeBron James, Kyler Murray, you're one of these super duper athletes that can just excel in all three sports and go season to season. But a lot of times kids are specializing in basketball and or football kind of year round. So that takes you out. I think also, obviously, there's almost maybe roughly 30% of the players are Caribbean. And, they have the camps, if you will, or training centers, academies down in the Caribbean. And it's cheaper to get those players, than to develop them and put everything in place here in America in some of the African-American neighborhoods and things like that. We mentioned the lack of fathers in the African-American community as far as living in the home with their children. It's less than 30%. And so the fathers are a lot of times the ones that introduce children to baseball, coach them. And as I said, I can go outside and play basketball by myself or with my friends and get a nice handle, get a good jump shot developed in the game. Football, similar. But baseball, you can't do that.
No.
Somebody has to teach you how to judge fly balls.
Everybody got to have a glove.
Right. Everybody got to have a glove. You got to be taught how to judge fly balls, how to field grounders, how to hit the baseball, how to throw it. You throw it with the two fingers. You don't put all your, like all these little things. They don't sound too complicated, but I'm saying you have to be taught these things. And a lot of times a father is teaching you that because it's a game of skill. You can't just play baseball based on athleticism. It's a game of skill. And then you went to it. A lot of African American kids just aren't that interested in baseball anymore. It's not a glamour sport. And also it's a slow sport, Ephraim.
Very slow.
Football is, every play is something's happening. Basketball is just constant. And baseball is very slow. I think that's why it isn't quite as popular on TV.
Well,
because it's a lot slower. You can watch a game and very little happens. And so I think those are a combination of reasons as to why, there aren't as many black players as there used to be. And I'll say this before we go on, Ephraim, and I want your thoughts. Look, I would love to see more African Americans playing baseball. It's a great opportunity for you, for your family. And obviously, African Americans are, many of us are great athletes. And so I would love to see more playing baseball. But if blacks just don't want to play, Ephraim, then it is what it is. Nobody's clamoring to get us to play hockey or tennis, or golf. There was a little bit of that with Tiger Woods. But if we don't want to play the sport, then so be it. I don't want roadblocks to us. I don't want things that limit us from playing the sport. But if we decide for whatever reason you're just not interested, then it is what it is.
I also think that the avenue for success has opened, not just for African Americans, but for all people. When, growing up, there was a time where there was very few tangible avenues for someone to become popular, famous, well-known. Social media has lent itself to a whole lane of success and popularity. So, like earlier, I talked about high school and that currency being popularity. So there are different things now that you can do to garner that feeling that you want, right? To be special, to be something, to be heard of, to have something, not to have an above average life, right? When growing up, my brother and I, we shared a full-size waterbed, and we would just stare at the ceiling and name out all the stuff we wanted to do when we made it, right? So we were hell-bent on making it professional. He played basketball overseas for about 5 or 6 years, got paid well for it. I played, obviously, in the in the NFL, and got paid well for it. And so it just unlocked an unlimited set of dreams that we had, that we were able to participate in. But those were the building blocks to continue our life and continue our success, even off the field and off the hardwood. I think sport is paramount to build resilience in kids, which turns into resilient adults. Yeah. How to deal with disappointment. No matter how good you are, there's no such thing as a perfect athlete. And in the context of sport, I think that helps build out some emotional things that we deal with as adults that sport can help you see past. Right? You win a big game. I'm dealing with my 9, about to be 10-year-old now, about every single loss can't be like you lost Game 7 of the NBA Finals, right? Like it can't. So him learning how to regulate his emotions, because it spills over into him not getting the perfect score on a test, right? And him not, doing something like his chores perfectly, and you have to teach kids how to deal with failure. It's important that they understand that lesson, and sports is one of the best ways to hit that home, because it's also about being a good teammate, and you can lose a game and you've had a great game. Right. You can win a game and you not have a good, like, those dynamics are very hard to find in everyday life outside of a sport, right? Like if you wake up and you have a terrible day and and you work at an office or something like that, and you have a terrible day at work, you just have a terrible day at work.
Nobody's caring.
It's not you know what I mean? Like you can't come in and be horrible at your job and y'all still get the account. Right? Like right. So
I also think, Ephraim, and it was disheartening because I had girls that played field hockey, so I didn't coach them. All right.
You should have jumped in there, man. You got to jump in there.
I would have loved, even though, I didn't have boys, but I often thought, man, I would love to coach like high school basketball. But I just, with my job, particularly, even now.
You got too many
particularly
jobs.
when I was, covering.
Just give one up.
Too many jobs, right.
Let somebody else get a job, man.
But back in the day, I was covering the teams in the NBA, traveling. I didn't have time to do it. But it was disheartening to hear you and even the caller as well say, like, parents, I in some cases, I guess, won't allow you to coach their kids, jumping on you when you jump on the kids. Like, and look, I had coaches a couple, maybe one or two, that went overboard with the yelling and, stuff like that. But I'm thankful that I was coached hard in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
Because it taught me respect for authority. It taught me, like you said, everything doesn't always go your way. It taught me resiliency, how to have to come back from a disappointment when you've disappointed your coach or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, all of that stuff. And my parents, my father, when the coach jumped on me, my father didn't get mad at the coach.
No.
He was kind of, well, you got to do better. You got to do better, boy. Like stuff like that. He was right. The coach was right. You didn't do this or that, And so I just think it's unfortunate if today's kids aren't getting that type of coaching.
You know what I teach my kids? Effort. I'll never be upset if you give effort. I don't coach wins and losses. I coach effort.
Mm-hmm.
If you can give your best, your all, we have a higher chance of winning. It may not always work out.
Yep.
But if you've given everything you've had, then you can walk out of here with your head high. If you haven't, then that's when you have to look inside of yourself and see what type of teammate you are and what type of player you are. So I coach effort.
No, that's legit.
Listening, being a good teammate, and effort. Yep. Because if you show up, even if your shot is not going in, if your effort, right, case in point, my son dribbling down the court, tries to cross somebody over, they steal the ball, right? He turns, looks dejected, right? Call a timeout. Hey, man.
Get back on defense.
I said, hey, you made a mistake. You made the mistake worse.
Right.
Because you gave no effort, right? Similar situation happens, right? Shoots a ball, goes up for a rebound, has the rebound, getting ready to shoot it again. Guy rips it out of his hand, takes off. He chases him down. Guy goes up from a layup. He blocks the ball out of bounds.
Chase down block.
Chase down block.
Dang.
That's his specialty, too. He loves watching LeBron do that. So that's his specialty. He's long and he's fast. And
that's
so
awesome. That's awesome.
We go into halftime. I say, that's what I'm talking about.
There you go.
If you can
that's
do
a teaching
that,
moment.
If you can do that, I don't care about the missed shot. You lost the rebound. It doesn't matter. Yeah. None of that matters.